circle of fire, my baptism of joy. At an end, it seems. The seventh lamb slain, the book of life opens before me, and I will pray for you. Someday I may return. Don't you cry for me, beyond is where I learn. Living on a razor's edge, balancing on a ledge. Living on a razor's edge, you know, the evil that men do lives on and on. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where we're sitting here reading some confidential top secret documents we got from Hunter Biden for a rookie Wade Boggs Fleer and a rookie Don Mattingly tops.
How did I part with my Don Mattingly?
I don't know.
You know, back in the when I went to baseball camp back in the late 80s.
Yes.
It was the first time I ever saw myself hit on film.
Yeah, that's a weird thing, isn't it?
Well, it's weird because everything gets recorded now. Back then, I never saw myself hit.
Right.
And I remember the guy running the thing had talked to my dad, and he comes up to me and goes, you know, because I hit left-handed, and he said, you know, your dad says you're having trouble pulling the ball, trouble with the inside pitch. I was Joe Mauering everything.
Okay.
And he said to me, he wanted me to watch film of Don Mattingly.
Yes.
And he said, watch Mattingly. And he adjusted my hands a little bit. He watch how he turns on that ball.
Yeah. And
that helped me a lot. I became a completely different player thanks to watching Don Mattingly hit at a baseball camp.
Huh.
So his tops card was hard to give up for Hunter Biden's documents. Sacrifices we make.
Did you fall in love with the Yankees before that, or was that what made you a Yankees fan?
No, I fell in love with the history of the Yankees when I learned about baseball. I did like a lot of their players. Dave Winfield played for them at that time.
Yep.
I always liked Ron Guidry.
Yep.
There were a couple other guys. Willie Randolph was a great player. And I fell in love with the history. I mean, forget the economics of now. Just the whole, just being in awe of how a franchise could sustain winning like that, which is unprecedented in any sport.
They had Ricky Henderson back then.
Yeah, they did for a while.
Yeah.
Well, Billy Martin, Henderson started with the A's.
Right.
And Billy Martin managed him, and then when Martin went back to the Yankees, Henderson was one of the guys that he pursued. And of course, Henderson went back to the A's later when they, won with the Canseco, McGuire, Dave Stewart team. But,
right.
Yeah, amazing that Yankee team in the 80s never did anything. But of course, when only 4 teams make the playoffs back then, it was now
hard.
There's 26.
Right.
It's a lot more difficult. So,
right.
Yeah. I blame Steinbrenner for a lot of it. There's too much change going on. It wasn't until he stuck with Joe Torre and built the team through the. People forget that the Yankee teams in the late 90s were built from within. I mean, Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams, Jorge Posada, Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettit. They were not players that he went out and got. Right. He went out and got guys later, and they had the money to keep everybody. But they went to a different formula to win those teams later in the 90s. So, but yeah, you know what? If you're left-handed and play first base, you remember all the first basemen you grew up watching.
Oh, yeah.
Including Ken Herbeck here. Yeah. So, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
The song, I have no idea. Oh, wait, I do know it.
You do?
It's Bon Jovi.
Oh.
I heard Living on a, what was it?
Goodness.
Living on a Bubble or something?
Living on a Bubble.
What'd you say? What was that?
Living on a Razor's Edge.
Yeah, well, I got partial credit for that. I was close. The Razor's Edge, that was Scott Hall's finishing move, wasn't it? The Razor's Edge?
Yes, it was. It was also an album by AC/DC, but not this song.
Oh, okay. So enlighten us, Jay. If it's not Bon Jovi, I can't believe it. Am I close? Is there a J and a B? Is there a J and a B in the name?
There's a JB telling you whose it is. How about that? Huh?
Close enough, I guess.
Close enough. The song is called The Evil That Men Do. Yes, it was off the concept album, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. And so
well, I was going to guess that.
Yeah.
I was going to guess
Well, that was one of their popular ones. along with Power Slave. And,
Now, what kind of would you consider them? What kind of music would you consider them?
Heavy metal. They were 80s heavy metal. It's different than now, where you have 12,000 types of heavy metal. But it's
when you say heavy metal, I have a picture in my head of like the 10 bands that defined heavy metal.
Right. and they were really one of them. Iron Maiden was.
Okay.
You had Metallica, you had Iron Maiden, you had, as much as you hate to say it, you had bands like, Poison and Motley Crue. You also, Poison is, they were really commercially successful, but it's kind of
Poison. Is that Alice Cooper?
No, that was his album. Alice Cooper is definitely, I think, one of those where you would call him a grandfather of the genre. Yeah.
But he's from Detroit.
He is, but now he's from Scottsdale, and he just golfs a lot when he's not on tour. But
fair enough. He's got to be 70 years old.
Yeah, maybe
something like that.
He's still touring though.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You know what? I'll tell you what. Part of me admires that, and part of me thinks that's pathetic.
It's not though. I saw him. When did I see him?
I mean, more power to him, but I mean,
it wasn't that many years ago, and he still had a really good show. He's still putting out new music. He's not. I mean, he does like a best of when he's out touring, but he still does new stuff, and he's still putting out new stuff, and so I admire that. If you have the creativity to continue to put that stuff out, that's good.
Yeah, I guess. Just to me, generals retire, horses retire, boxers retire, musicians never retire.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's kind of like, I guess I sort of see, and maybe it's just my view of that genre of music.
Maybe.
When you're 75 and you got tattoos and your
spandex,
face is all strung out, and you're wearing a shirt that's 3 sizes too tight. It's kind of like, all right,
But like Johnny Cash toured up till he died, and his best
Johnny
albums,
was always cool.
Arguably, his best albums were the ones he put out at the end of his career with Rick Rubin. That's where the cover for "Hurt" is.
Yeah,
that's a Trent Reznor gave him that. I was like, it's not my song anymore.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm just.
I think it just depends. There are probably people that overstay their welcome or they get comfortable. You're going to have that in any field. Music, it's more noticeable.
I guess that's...
You hope it doesn't happen to a brain surgeon, but yeah.
Here's why I cringe at it. My least favorite promotion in sports was Old Timers Day.
Yeah.
You might laugh at that. I remember vividly I'm usually good with dates, but I'll be damned if I forgot this. 87, 88.
Okay.
I went to Old Timers Day at the Dome.
Yeah.
Okay, now look, some guys look great. Tony Oliva looked like you could put him in the starting lineup.
Jim Cott
looked like he could strike 10 guys out.
Yeah.
But I mean, I watched Earl Batty, the old Twins catcher. And my dad told me stories about him and Bobby Allison. I didn't know Bob Allison had a disease that he didn't know. He died in the early 90s. He got real sick because he looked like crap too. But I mean, you look out there and you're like, I can't put 2 and 2 together in my head. I think people, athletes, it's kind of like an aging actress who was beautiful in her day, and now she's old and wrinkly, and just, I mean, and yet still trying to be, doesn't know anything other than that. Well, you're a baseball player and you retire at 35, and you have the whole 50 more years to live, and yet there isn't anything. You haven't done anything. Now, maybe it's different with music. It's possible.
Yeah.
But part of me is just like, ugh. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just one who thinks that you could do more than one thing with your life. But I'll say this. I'd rather see Alice Cooper out touring than using his money for world domination. There are definitely things I'd rather see.
That's true.
I'd rather see that than getting iPods at a gathering of musicians allegedly fighting poverty, all these millionaires.
Right.
So it's just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you though, even Bono from U2 has kind of changed his position on things. That you can't just give third world countries money and expect that they're going to turn around. They need to be employed or own businesses.
Need democracy and capitalism.
Yeah.
That's what they need.
And that is what
we've turned them into welfare states instead. And look, I respect him.
Yeah.
Okay? I think he's a decent guy. I do.
Yep.
But he's wrong-headed in what he's done. Again, the greatest intentions in the world often don't lead to the best solutions.
Right. Well, I think he's changed his positions on a lot of that.
Let's
which
hope.
Is good. Well, that's what I've read. So
I'm going to call him Sonny Bono.
Sonny
All right.
Bono. Okay.
Jay,
Yes.
quick thing here.
All right.
Prediction, prognostication via the quid pro quo.
Okay.
That's as big a words as I use.
Okay.
Last May or June, when I went off about the end of the legislative session at the state,
Yes.
I made several predictions. They've turned out to all be correct. And usually I stink at that, but this time I was right.
We got a little better track record with politics.
Yeah, I'm a little gooder.
Sports.
Gooder. Yeah, forget that Cowboys game.
Yeah, I was wrong on the Bills too. So
I'm okay. Bills Mafia, you're the biggest nerd group I've ever come across. Start calling everybody Gilbert and Lewis. That's part of that.
really,
Yeah, that's what I'm going to call them.
oh boy.
Our governor here in Minnesota is Mr. One Minnesota. Minnesota.
Yeah.
Or is it Uno? I like Un better.
I think by that he means there's like one ring to rule them all, one to bind them, and in the darkness, whatever. That is.
There's one.
Yeah.
If you're with him or voted for him or
Right.
contributed to him, you're part of One Minnesota.
Right.
If you aren't, you can go straddle a goat. Okay?
You can go cut a hole in the ice and jump in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bend over and grab your ankles. From NPR News, Walz proposes checks for up to $2,600 based on income and family size.
Oh, boy.
Go into the details. Minnesota families could receive up to $2,600 in rebate checks. This is not a rebate.
No.
You know what a rebate is? That's when you go into Menards and buy 10 things to get $5. That's not what's going on here.
Right.
A rebate. Okay, I got so upset that I backed the. I have to get it back on my phone here. I went backwards. Listen to this.
Yes.
In rebate checks under a state spending plan that the governor outlined on Tuesday. So you're going to get rebate checks under a spending plan. Individuals who make up to $75,000 a year. Who invented this 75 grand stuff?
I don't know.
Is that rich?
Not really.
Now,
That's
Jay,
middle income, right?
I'm going to let the
No.
cat out of the bag. I made more money than that last year.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not worthy of getting any money that I paid.
Right. You paid it in,
Yeah,
but
hey,
you don't get it back.
So much for One Minnesota.
That's not a rebate.
Individuals who made up to $75,000 a year could receive a check. Receive a check of $1,000 each. For married couples, the threshold is 150 G's for a $2,000 check. Parents could receive up to an additional $200 on the rebate check for each child up to 3. The maximum benefit for a family, 2,600 beans. As many as 2.5 million Minnesota households are expected to receive a check if the plan is adopted.
Huh.
The governor rolled out the final chapter of his budget proposal, which also called for reducing the state tax on Social Security benefits. Hey, how about eliminating it?
That would be
Didn't
good.
you spend, 45 years paying into that? Now you got to pay taxes to get it out?
Right.
Our government, I'll tell
See,
you.
Social Security is a tax on your money. That's why they call it a Social Security
It's a tax you can't avoid. You don't get money
Right.
back on, by the way.
And then they take money out of that. They tax your tax when they give it back to you. That's a great scam. I'd like to figure. They get you coming, they get you going.
Here's a hilarious Walz quote.
Yes.
He said it's important to hand some of that money directly to taxpayers and let them decide how best to spend it. Well, when did you start believing in that?
Yeah.
Hand some of it.
Right.
But he gets to keep most of it.
Right, exactly. They're not going to give you it all back, and they're not going to give people like us any of it back.
Okay, so the full, I don't know if I want to read this full budget proposal.
Yeah.
$4.4 billion in extra public school money. Now, let me translate that.
Yeah.
Expect huge property tax increases as a result. Now, you might say, well, how's that possible? Here's how. The additional money becomes the new baseline.
Right.
Then
this
in 2
ongoing.
years, then in 2 years, when they're not getting more, the local school, because of course they'll get all the money and spend it.
Right.
Local school boards will claim that the funding's being cut, so therefore they need a referendum to pick up the slack.
Absolutely.
Look for record referendums by 25, 26, somewhere around there.
Oh, goodness.
$300 million plan to support public safety agencies. Become carbon free by 2040. Who gets that money?
I wish it would become Walz free.
Yeah, but I mean,
yes.
Who gets that money? Where does that $458 million?
Well, you know where it's going to go.
You get a check for $1,000. These people get $458
Here's where
million.
it's going to go. It's going to go to solar companies. It's going to go
Xcel
to
Energy,
Xcel
who have a monopoly.
Yeah, it's going to come in the form of rebates and financial help to those who put in things like solar panels and weather stripping and different types of house upgrades that make your home a green entity. It's going to go towards windmills and everything else. Didn't Minnesota just say that they finally recognize hydroelectricity as a viable form of green energy? So some of the money is going to go to hydroelectricity as well. Which is weird because, like, if you go to the Coon Rapids Dam, there's like a plaque there that talks about the history of the dam and that it just wasn't sufficient enough to provide the kind of electricity needed for the area.
Well, yeah, it needs friction.
Right.
There's not enough to. It can only. Hydro is for a very small sector. You know, you could have a block of houses on a river. Could be hydro-powered.
Right.
And I wonder how that works in the winter, too. I mean, how does that work in the winter?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to get that ice moving. You get some friction and get enough ice skaters out there?
I don't know.
Is that how it works?
I don't know how if you've got 4 feet of ice, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah,
but
I don't know either.
we value our great public schools, affordable health care, and an economy that works better for everyone, said House Speaker Melissa Horrible.
It's not working for me. Tell you that.
Oh, and Republicans, boy, they had great responses.
Oh, I bet they did.
Boy, huge government growth in agencies, huge growth in taxation is very concerning, said Mark Johnson of East Grand Forks, Senate Minority Leader. Quote, if we can't cut taxes now, when can we? Asked House Minority Leader Lisa Dumuth, adding the governor's proposals on public safety fall short. They want to spend more. Mm-hmm. What is this obsession with permanent tax cuts? There's no such thing as a permanent tax cut. What one legislature can cut, the next legislature can raise.
If you want something permanent, here's what you need to do. Flat tax.
Yeah, or win elections over and over
well,
and over.
Well, that'd be a start, wouldn't it?
Golly.
Wow, that would be a start. How about you get the majority? That's one way to start getting your way. Huh? I mean, it didn't work for the House or the Senate last time around, but
well, the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce with some tough language here.
Oh, I bet.
Now is the time to make Minnesota more competitive and invest in our economic future by lowering taxes and preventing costly mandates. Well, where were you in the election there?
Yeah.
How many DFLers did you endorse, Chamber of Commerce?
I'm sure plenty.
And we all know why, so you get good on their committees and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, boring. Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities says the $30 million boost in local government aid falls short of what they need.
Well, too
Not
bad.
enough free money.
Too bad. How about you just learn to make do, huh? How about you learn how
Cut
to
spending. How about you cut spending?
That would be a novel concept, wouldn't it?
Don't you love this?
But how could we pay all of their employees benefits and pension plans if we don't raise taxes?
Yeah, that's right. Living wages.
Yes.
Without more money from the state. Oh, wait, hold on. The $30 million increase doesn't keep up with inflation. Well, neither are my wages there, Mr. Coalition President and Thief River Falls Mayor. A total conflict of interest, Mr. Brian Homer Simpson. In a statement, with a record high surplus, the proposal is disheartening. Without more money from the state, Homer said, the local governments will have no choice but to cut services, raise taxes, or do both.
That's what they always say.
Blah, blah, blah. The old scare tactics.
You know what? If you don't get enough money, raise your own taxes in your city. How about that? You need more money. To quote a friend of ours, anytime the government needs more money, we can tax the citizens.
I recall that guy who said that.
Yes, to cover our butts. That is what he said. And that's the truth. And that's what you can do, Mr. Homer Simpson, is go ahead and raise your taxes and watch everybody move.
Well, I mean, again, the whole idea that I'm going to balance a budget based on sitting there hoping the state cuts me money is an abdication of their everything they were elected to do. And
I'm not getting enough money from Minneapolis and St. Paul and the Metro.
Well,
it's not your money.
Well, and rural Minnesota has legitimate beefs on some of that. But again, it's the whole system. It's the whole merry-go-round of money, as we like to call it. The whole idea that you take money, you send it. Here's the thing. There is no way you can take money, send it to a central government, and have them spit it out equally. There's no way that works.
No.
So the whole idea behind LGA or behind the state running education spending, because that, first off, it removes local accountability. That's the first thing it does. You have no local accountability when they can all whine about the state. And then secondly, there's no way to do this equally. There's no formula out there. There's no magic wand that is going to make everybody the same.
Right.
So, take your own initiative, Homer. Eat a donut. And I don't mean seriously. Get on a skateboard. I don't know.
Oh, boy.
I don't know. It's just a lot of fun here at the Capitol. And by the way, Republicans, I got an idea. If you'd have agreed to the end of the budget proposal last year, checks would have gone out to people last year.
Yeah. True.
So, and I'm going to make a prediction here.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction that we either get nothing, because I don't think the majority of DFLers want to give anything back. I think the only way they're going to agree to it is if it's a small amount toward a very narrow group.
People they can buy with their money.
Yeah, I mean, rewarding the people who voted for them.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see something like this. I think, again, this is a starting point. Of course, where Republicans are in this, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a one-seat majority in the Senate, so that isn't much. And a lot of these DFLers won these 50 to 49 races. So, I mean,
you should be able to pick it.
I mean,
some of them off.
Pick off 2 or 3, or you think, but there has to be a clear-cut alternative, and the Republicans should propose to send all of it back.
Yeah.
That should be their starting point.
Yep.
We'll send you $10,000 checks. That should be the starting point. Walz is already committed to $2,600, so he can't walk that back now.
Right.
So there's your opening. I don't know. I'm going to say very, very little. The DFL has overpromised so many groups that I just they're all going to want a piece of this, and I just don't see very much money going back. Money that we paid in. I mean,
right.
It's going to the grocery store, buying $75 worth of groceries, giving them a $100 bill, and the grocery store keeps it.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of what the state of Minnesota is doing.
Right.
So, did I hear one Republican make that argument?
No.
Was I just missing that, or did I not hear that?
You didn't hear it.
I didn't
because they didn't say it.
Didn't think I heard it.
Yeah.
So, why am I articulating better than they are?
Well, that's why we get paid the big bucks.
Speaking of people with big bucks,
Yeah.
your friends, Jay,
Yes.
everybody on your Christmas list. I wouldn't mind these people on my Christmas list.
Yeah.
They give me a carbon-free donut or whatever.
A carbon-free donut.
Carbon-free, something.
Let me just say this, since you bring it up. I wouldn't trust a carbon-free donut from these people if it was the last donut on Earth. Do you know in Europe, they are weighing a measure right now. I don't think it's passed yet. Where
what do you mean in Europe? Is that in
European Union?
Oh, European.
Yes.
So everybody but the Brits.
That would approve, what is it? Cricket powder to be sold as a viable alternative for flour.
Cricket powder.
Yeah, doesn't that sound lovely? You could have cricket powder donuts.
You mean cricket as in the sport, or cricket as in a...
No, as in you stick Jiminy Cricket and his friends into a blender and you grind it up, or maybe not a blender, I don't know what it would be, some sort of a mill, and you got a... What,
well, you've drank a grasshopper
mortar
before,
and a pestle, and you grind them up, I don't know, and you bake bread out of his bones.
Boy, next time I have an English muffin or a French croissant, I'm going to think twice.
Yeah, exactly.
I shouldn't pick on the Brits. They're not part of it anymore. But.
Right.
Wow. Nothing like old cricket powder. Does it still chirp?
Well, maybe.
I bet it chirps while it's grinding.
Right.
Boy, my goodness.
Yeah, you rub a couple of donuts together, and it sounds like a summer evening. Yeah.
Okay. I was kidding, but I guess that brought a true story.
Yes. Well, that is the outflow of what we're talking about today. All of this stuff comes out of this garbage that we're talking about.
Now, Jay, just to start here with the World Economic Forum. I mean,
yes.
that's what we're talking about here. Let me ask you a question. Can you give us a synopsis of when this started or what it's from? Because I think a lot of people, me included, have studied things like the Bilderbergs and things like that, and the people. Where in Georgia did they create the Federal Reserve?
It was not Georgia. It was. Is it South Carolina? Jekyll Island.
Jekyll Island. Okay.
Yeah.
We and for so many years this was dismissed as lunacy. It was dismissed as this whole move to globalism. That there's money men out there that are trying to make us their slaves. When I first heard that stuff, I was just like, oh, come on. Give me a break. Yeah. I'm sure there's people who want to do that, but come on. I'll tell you what, it's so scary. And here's what's so scary about it. It goes in with Agenda 21 and all things like that. Here's what's scary about it. There was a time where they did this in secret.
Yeah.
There was a time people would like wear masks to get into a place. They would be whisked away somewhere to discuss. Now it's so out in the open. You know what I mean? It is so blatant
Yeah.
And I'd like to know, if I turned on CNN or the Fox Noise channel, or if I turned on PMSNBC, would I see any coverage of the World Economic Forum?
Fox has had some,
Maybe Tucker,
especially
maybe.
Tucker, but it had Laura Ingraham has been covering it, I guess.
Okay.
The Blaze, of course, covers it.
Right. That's an outlaw, publication.
But it is. They're about 50 years old. World Economic Forum. It is. Oh goodness! I mean, for years you've heard about this meeting in Davos, Switzerland, and all the elites go to this meeting and they talk about things, and it's leaders in business, it's leaders in government. This has been going on a long time, and yeah, you're right. I mean, we've heard for decades about the secrecy of the meetings with the Bilderbergs and the Trilateral Commission and things like that. And a lot of it's the same groups. I mean, these are real organizations. They're not fake at all. Yeah. A lot of I think, conspiracy theories came around the secrecy of these events. Now, I'm not certain, because I haven't really followed the Bilderbergs and Trilateral Commission in a long time, but with World Economic Forum, we know that a lot of this gets televised. It gets broadcast over the internet. You can watch the sessions. The press is allowed in and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Bilderbergs were very secret for a long, long time.
Yes, I mean from what I understand, I think they have a website now. But yeah, it's so things have changed. And part of that is because the media has run cover for them, and it allows them to be able to do what they're going to do, and those who report accurately on the things that they say get turned into conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, they get marginalized.
Yes, exactly.
Not invited to those Washington and New York cocktail parties.
Right. But it's a chance for these people that some of the biggest corporations and governments from all around the world. I mean, this is not just an America thing. It's not just a Europe thing. It's from all around the world.
Well, and I tell you what, the key continent is Asia.
Yeah.
They're the growing continent.
They are. I don't think
Europe,
China really participates.
Of course they don't, because then they'd have to commit to a carbon-free economy when they want nothing to do with.
Well, there's that. There's also, and we've explained it on the show before, where you've got a national socialism, kind of like the Nazis, but not really. I mean, some of those concepts are the same, where it is the building up of the nation and turning the nation into a powerhouse and using some form of socialism to do that. Now, granted, with China, there's some more weird, it's like a distortion, a perversion of capitalism. But you've got that on one side, and Russia's in the same boat. Brazil, they're trying to turn into the same thing. Venezuela, they're not about taking over other countries and bringing things together. It's about lifting up their country and making their country.
It's Mao's view. It's Stalin's view. Communism in one country.
Yeah.
Not the vision of expanding it.
Right.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So there's that, and then on the other side, you have the socialism that is being pushed by groups like the World Economic Forum, who's using China as an example, and that is the model that they are using to grow their socialism, their brand of it, but it is by expanding it into as many countries as possible. You have the globalists that are part of this iteration versus the nationalists, in Russia, Alexander Dugin is kind of the guy that penned this, and then you've got guys like Putin that have studied under him and are implementing this. I know you're saying, well, isn't Russia trying to take over Ukraine? Well, he just wants to bring the Soviet Union back together.
In his mind, Ukraine is part of Russia.
Right, exactly. And so it's a reunification of the Soviet Union that he's really looking for here. Anyways, okay, so these guys meet once a year at Davos. There are things that go on throughout the year. The COP meetings, I think COP 27 in Egypt was the most recent
I just
one.
have to laugh at how it's always done in Switzerland. It's always done where, the banks and Swiss Bank, and you think that's a joke. It's actually true. There's
Absolutely.
a reason. What do the Swiss have other than banks and cheese?
Skiing.
Yeah, I guess so. Ski right out of there.
Yeah. And so they bring all these people together. And Klaus Schwab is one of the heads of this thing. And so he's a real evil-looking guy. You look at him, he looks like a villain. And
I can see him. You mentioned off the air like a James Bond thing. Can't you see him standing next to a nuclear reactor?
Yeah.
I want carbon-free world.
I've got sharks with freaking lasers on their heads.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
Mr. Schwab is a German engineer and an economist.
Yes.
By the way, 84 years of age. So like he gives a damn about the future of the world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here's the thing, too. I do have my respect for German engineering. You ever seen the engine? You ever seen a BMW's engine? There is something. I mean,
absolutely.
A Dodge Daytona in the 90s, just a hunk of crap. Something like that.
The favorite car I ever owned was an 83 Jaguar XJ6, and it had a BMW. Was it BMW or Mercedes engine in it? So, yes. I was very familiar with that. It was the Slant 6. So, loved it.
Anyway.
Yes. Anyway, sorry. Where are we here? So, yeah, they did work with China back in the 70s, having some partnerships around economic development and things. And there were regional meetings that happened as we moved into the 80s. The European Management Forum became the World Economic Forum, and
Schwab was involved in the founding of that.
Oh yeah, he was. They got involved with Greece and Turkey and the potential war that was there. North and South Korea held their first ministerial level meetings in Davos. East German Prime Minister Hans Modrau and German Chancellor Helmut Kohl met to discuss German reunification. In 92, South African President de Klerk met Nelson Mandela and Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi. That's, first joint appearance outside South Africa. 2015, the forum was formally recognized as an international organization. It's now on the next phase of its journey as the global platform for public-private cooperation.
Oh, God.
So, yes, public-private cooperation. And we've talked about that, these public-private partnerships where government and business come together, which we call...
Well, I'm going to say this.
Fascism, right?
And it's not government and business. It's big government and big business.
Oh yeah. It's the biggest corporations and it's big government. You don't find
and the very
people,
same. You'll find the very same people who criticize corporations, who are pretenders, are the other time rubbing elbows with these people.
Right.
They're all on the same team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. And I said this before. It is not right versus left. It is the elites versus the rest of us.
Absolutely.
We've got to start looking at it like that.
Yes. Well, and they have something called the Davos Manifesto. Who else had manifestos?
Oh, let's see. Karl Marx.
The Unabomber.
Adolf Hitler. Mein Kampf is a manifesto
it is.
in my book.
Yeah. So they're in good company. Yeah.
Manifesto. That word is almost it's almost like sustainability when I think about that word.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, what's that? Is that to lay out the world domination over the next 50 years?
It definitely charts their course.
That's the thing. This is out in the open now.
Yes.
They're
not hiding this stuff. I mean, they do refute some of it. Like they had a video that was we've highlighted on the show before about by 2030 you'll own nothing and be happy. We quoted excerpts from that.
That's
on
a
the
Partridge Family song. Own nothing and be happy, right?
You're right. It's exactly it.
You ought to write that, Jay.
Yeah.
Write that song.
But they did it. They won't own up to it, but they do own up to a lot of other stuff. And and we'll find as we kind of go through this that really they hit on just they have these goals. We've talked about it a bunch. ESG, and that's what all of these. It gets passed down into governments. It gets passed down into corporations. You have E, economic, S, social, and G, governance.
Here's the other thing. What is with these corporations? I mean, if I'm a major stockholder in Coke or in Bank of Amigo, I'm going nuts at this.
Right.
I'm like, look, this is not what we were designed to do. We are a company that makes a product. That's what we are.
And that's why they have pulled away from shareholders. You'll see throughout their documents where they talk not about shareholder buy-in, but they talk about stakeholder buy-in. That's what's important to them. It's the people that are affected by their policies, not the shareholders. Shareholders can go pound sand. We're more enlightened because we're about the stakeholders. We need to lift people up, Andrew.
You see that term everywhere now, stakeholder.
Yes.
It's an
to me,
undefined...
it's like I got a porterhouse in one hand and a New York strip in the other.
Well, you have that.
Happy.
Where's the grill? Let's get that going.
That's the kind of stakeholder I'm interested in.
Exactly, except don't try to take mine.
Well...
ESG is another thing that they've tried to backtrack from. You go to their website, you see ESG a million times.
Uh-huh.
You see like a committee on ESG scores.
Yep.
And yet they always walk that. Oh, no, you whack jobs.
Yeah. Oh, that's not ever going to be used as a social credit system. But that's exactly what they're doing. It's just like China has their social credit system. This is their social credit system, and they're going to use it to withhold funding and other things to down to the personal level. It's going to be used against companies. It is also going to be used against individuals.
So if somebody applies for a home loan,
yes,
that is outspoken against these things, they're going to know it because you do a search on me or you're not going to go very far to find this stuff. I'll be denied.
It's possible.
What will their reasoning be? Are they going to come out and say, well, you're just not economic and socially...
I don't know. I mean, we're not that far down the road yet.
But there's a whole movement called socially responsible banks.
There's
a whole movement for that of you don't make loans to oil companies. You don't make loans to automobile companies. You don't make no loans to builders unless they're doing X, Y, and Z.
Where we will see it is on the governance end of this right now, where it's going to be like, oh, you want to sell your home? Well, you're going to have to redo the weather stripping, or you're going to have to do X, Y, Z to make your home more green, and then we can look at selling your house. That's how it's going to meet most people. Because,
right now, that's only happening on new buildings, though.
Yes.
It's only people are grandfathered out of that at this point.
Right, because right now they're writing these rules for new development. It's going into city ordinances and whatever, so that when you build something new, these things have to automatically be incorporated into that development plan.
And one thing I found out at the local level is the definition of something new has been broadened.
Yes.
Let's just pretend, Jay.
Okay.
Let's pretend that you say your garage.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you wanted to tear your garage down and build a new one. You can't just do it.
Right.
Now the new standards apply to you.
Right.
You're no longer grandfathered into something. You make an addition to your house, now you're under new rules.
Right.
So it's been creeping in that way. You want to build a shed in your backyard? Well, we're going to tell you what you have to do here. It's not just, okay, here's a permit, there you go. That's what happened 30 years ago. Now there's going to be, well, what are you building it out of? And what do you know?
Are you using green materials? If you're in St. Louis Park and you want to tear up and totally redo your parking lot, you're going to have to put in electric charging stations. Doesn't matter if it's private property and, public's not really going to use it. Say like at a church or something like that, they're still going to have to put those in. Are you using LED lighting? Are you, if you're building like a strip mall, are you sharing, waste?
You're already forced on utilities.
Right.
In most cities, you're forced on that as it is.
Right.
You can't use a well. You can't use private electricity. You can't use.
Right.
You have no choices when it comes to those things. So, it's already here in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, well, we're just moving into a period where we're going to be graded on how we do and who we associate with.
You know who I'm going to grade? I'm going to grade my middle finger. I love their board of trustees. Can I try to pronounce a few names?
Yeah.
Hey, guess who one of them is? Al Gore.
Oh, you don't say.
He invented the internet. Listen to what he is.
Yes.
The chairman and co-founder of Generation Investment Management LLP. Oh, Mr. Gore, I thought you hated rich people. I thought you hated corporations.
I mean, except
you
for
hated
your
tax shelters.
multi-million-dollar house.
Yeah. Oh, except for yours, of course.
Right.
Yours
His private
is
plane.
Oh, I've got to pronounce some of these names. Yo-Yo Ma.
No, the cellist?
Yes.
What?
Yo-Yo Ma.
Oh, goodness. Just so that people can find this, where are you looking?
I'm at World Economic Forum's Leadership and Governance page. How about Mukesh D. Abani, Peter Brabeck-Letmathy.
Huh. Wow.
Who's this lady? Orit Gadesh. Look at that name right by my thumb. You want to take a crack at that one?
Wait a second.
Nazoe Akajo Iwalala.
That's it. I think let's see.
Look at this
gotta
title.
think with
Look at
my
that chick.
page.
It takes up a line and a half.
HM Queen Rania Al Abdullah of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, goodness is right. That other lady you were talking about, what? Ngozi Okonjo Iweala. All right.
How about the chairman here? Faliki Sizbama.
Huh.
Now, what do you get? A managing board, too?
Wow. Jim Hageman Snobby. Snobby. He's the chairman of Siemens. That's a big corporation.
It is?
Yeah, they make lots of stuff.
Hey, there's a guy on here named Oliver Schwab. I wonder how he got put on there.
Huh.
Just
Julie Sweet, chair and chief executive officer of Accenture.
Who are they?
They, what does Accenture do? They're a huge American company. Do they do like...
American company.
Yeah, they are. They are. Which we should probably go over some of that, too. Yo-yo. What? Oh.
Well, somebody's got to sing in the background.
Yeah, I don't think he sings, but... Wow. Yeah, there's...
Ramya Krishnawamy. Joe Oakley. Is that the sunglasses? I see global on something. I just want to barf.
Yeah.
There's another Schwab, Nicole Schwab. How are they getting these jobs? Is this like all the Kennedys getting into Harvard?
It could be. Sebastian Buckup. Better buck up. There.
Okay,
Wow,
anyway,
a
you mentioned the manifesto. I want to talk about our mission.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, maybe we should name some of the companies. If people think this isn't a big deal, Accenture, and I know we had mentioned that one. Let me just click on that quick. Accenture is a global professional services company. Yeah, that's what I thought, like temps and stuff, isn't it? With leading capabilities in digital, cloud, and security, combining unmatched experience and specialized skills across more than 40 industries. So I think they're a temp service, but like they're a big one. Other companies may or may not have ever heard of these, but AIG,
Sure.
Allianz, Amazon, AstraZeneca. Small companies like Bank of America, Barclays, BlackRock, BP,
God, I have stock in BP.
Chevron,
Probably shouldn't say that out loud.
Citi, Coca-Cola.
No, wait a minute.
Company.
Why is BP in there? They profit off oil. I thought they were evil.
Well, they're on here so that they can be in the cool kids club
That's
and
right.
not get shut down.
Yeah, get unfair
So
advantages.
they're working against their best interests to make sure that they survive. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Looking for those tax credits.
Right, Dell Technologies, Goldman Sachs and Google both a part of this. Hewlett Packard, Hitachi, Honeywell, IBM. Why not? You made stuff for the Nazis, might as well make stuff for the
all the banks loaned the money.
Intel, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase & Company. Like all the biggest banks, right?
Johnson. What did they have? That'd be a COVID vaccine?
Yeah.
What a
that's
shock
true.
they're there.
Manpower Group, MasterCard, McKinsey and Company, Microsoft, Mitsubishi,
Ooh.
Morgan Stanley, Nestle.
Nestle?
Nestle, yes.
What are they going to make? Sugar-free chocolate?
Novartis. Open Society Foundation. You know who that is?
Yeah.
George Soros.
Right, exactly.
Yes. PayPal. And I'm not saying that as a conspiratorial thing. That's actually the group he is in charge of. That is his group. PayPal, Pepsi, Pfizer, Procter & Gamble.
Pfizer.
Qualcomm. Salesforce. Let's see. Siemens we mentioned. Sony Group.
You said Siemens.
S&P Global. Ericsson. Unilever. They're in everything.
The only one of them.
Verizon, Visa. So all your credit card groups are in this as well. And just about any way for you to get financing or move money around. Volkswagen, Volvo. Huge companies getting together with people from the American government, the European Union government, India, Brazil, you name it.
Is there anybody represented the United States government there?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, yes.
I'm just curious because I didn't see anything on their leadership page.
Oh.
Curious.
Well,
who
maybe
was
not
there.
leaders other than Al Gore, but
That's right. Yeah. El Gore.
yeah.
Angry El Gore.
Yes. There was a faction of U.S. politicians that went over there. One of them were a number of people from the administration that went. John Kerry was one of them. Christopher Wray, head of the FBI, was one of them. Why is the FBI involved in World Economic
Because
Forum?
they need info and intel on people.
Yeah.
They need that to back up their, how are you going to implement ESG? You're going to have everybody's info. Where are you going to get it? Google. You're going to get it from the FBI. What are the files that they have on their enemies?
Yeah.
They're making an enemies list.
Yeah. Here is a list of people that, and this is from the conspiratorial website, U.S. Embassy in Switzerland and Liechtenstein. So it's a government website. U.S. delegation to attend the World Economic Forum annual meeting. Secretary of Labor, Martin J. Walsh. Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines. United States Trade Representative, Ambassador Catherine Tai. Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Christopher Wray. United States Agency for International Development Administrator, Samantha Power. Remember her? Mm-hmm. She's not any good. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, John Kerry.
Senator, who went to Vietnam.
Yes. Senator Chris Coons. Senator Maria Cantwell. Senator Joe Manchin, Representative Brendan Boyle, Representative Joaquin Castro, Representative Madeline Dean, Representative Darrell Issa, Representative Gregory Meeks, Representative Seth Moulton, Representative Maria Salazar, Representative Mike Sherrill. This is not a complete list because I also know that Senator Kristen Sinema was there as well. There were Republicans that went. In fact,
always are. Go look at the Bilderbergs.
Yes. In fact, the governor of Georgia was at
Brian Kemp.
Brian Kemp went to really? Davos this year.
Now, are they going? Are all these people going to schmooze? Are they going to see what's going on? Are they going to?
If you ask any of the Republicans that went, they're quoted pretty much as saying, "We want to go and show how wonderful the free market is."
Well, we don't have a free market here, so I don't know why.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
You're going to go show a bunch of socialists and change their minds.
Yeah. There was an article in Reuters that Davos 2023, EU to counter U.S. climate game changer with own Green Deal. So they're going to battle it out to see who can come up with the absolute worst policies.
I'll let Europe have it.
Yeah, I would like to say that as well. But
the has-been continent.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're a dying continent.
Their best days were 200 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, come on. Let's be honest. France hasn't been a world power since the days of Napoleon.
Yeah.
Name anything made in Spain or Portugal or Italy other than spaghetti. I mean, these are not world powers anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's what, these people get involved. Here's what John Kerry said. He was talking to a separate panel on financing the transition to a low-carbon economy, that the only way to avoid catastrophic damage caused by climate change was for governments and companies to spend big. That's it.
We need to spend big.
So, this is what we're looking at. So anyone who wants to say, oh, this isn't a big deal, or not take it seriously, or this is just some fun thing they do to blow off steam when they get together,
Well, my question always, why are the goals always by like the year 2050? If everything's so catastrophic,
right?
Why don't we make driving illegal if it's so bad? I mean, I don't get the whole. I've been hearing my entire life. I mean, I remember. I'll put it to here: the 2030 plan,
right?
The Met Council. Well, we're not that far from it. You never hear about anything that was accomplished.
Because
the goals just get pushed out to 2040 and then 2050 and then 2060.
Right.
It's like a constant way to keep control.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, this stuff's scary. I mean, this stuff is really scary that a handful of money men can control everything. By the way, where's the diversity here? I see too many white faces here.
Yeah.
We need more chocolate chips in this vanilla shake here. I mean, we got to check where's the transvestite? Are they represented here?
Oh, I'm sure Biden sent people over there.
What, John Kerry?
Surprised he didn't send
Maybe Kristen Cinema's close enough.
Admiral Rachel Levine over to.
Could have sent Brittany Griner. So that
she wouldn't come back. She'd get holed up somewhere else.
Yeah, probably not. I wouldn't if I were her.
Yeah, I wouldn't leave the country ever again.
Yeah, no kidding. But point being, I mean, you look at the whole this, but we've talked about it even here in this country. I mean, I don't believe we have capitalism here.
Right.
We have
not true
oligopolies that control major sectors of our economy. We have a handful of companies who control farming in this country, and largely because of government subsidies. They're not going to the family farmer. They're going to absentee landowners.
Right.
Pardon me. We have a handful of companies that control home improvement stuff. We have a handful of companies that control, cooking. We have a handful of companies that control beer. We have everything seems to have 3 or 4 companies who seem to all just kind of, we'll just all keep our market share.
Right.
We'll all just stay stagnant and crush anybody around you. Think of it like this. Go to the grocery store. How many grocery stores really are there?
Yeah. Super Value owns a heck of a lot of what's out there. Cub.
But there's a handful.
Yeah.
Walmart, Target.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can consider Target and Walmart necessarily grocery stores. They're more discount stores that sell groceries.
Right.
There's some smaller companies like Coburn's.
Yeah. Aldi.
Hy-Vee, and that's it.
Yeah.
Your local grocery store is a thing of the past. Your local hardware store, a thing of the past.
Right.
The local drugstore, a thing of the past. Everything's being controlled by a monster somewhere, and it's like the same things happen in sports. I always make sports analogies. There was a time where baseball, for example, was a ma and pa business.
Yes.
Now it's a gazillionaire where a baseball team is just a folder in their portfolio.
Right.
That's all it's become.
Yep.
I mean, one of the least wealthy owners were the Steinbrenners, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes. George Steinbrenner was not a gazillionaire. He owned a shipping company. He's from Cleveland. He bought the Yankees on a very small amount of money because they were owned by CBS, and CBS wanted to dump them.
Huh.
And he turned that around, with his own ideas, And I mean, he did a lot of innovative things.
Yeah.
But he wasn't some guy worth billions of dollars that just happened to buy a team and then gave it to somebody else to run. Right. That's the way sports is now. It's a great microcosm of what's happened in our economy, generally speaking. And I'll tell you what, with this things like you're going to see more of this. You're going to see what amazes me. I'd like to sit John Kerry down and ask him a few questions. I remember when he ran for president and he did nothing but criticize big corporations, did nothing but tell them everybody how terrible they were and how they don't pay their fair share. When I went to Vietnam, I'm going to come back and make corporations pay their fair share. Well, who's at a World Economic Forum rubbing elbows with major corporations? Who's that, Mr. Kerry?
Yeah.
Lurch. Who's that? That's you. Al Gore, same thing.
Yep.
Companies have ruined the world. Well, who's off with BP and Chevron? And who's at a forum with them? Al Gore, Mr. Environmentalist. It's all phony. It's all designed to make us fight each other and not fight the elites and the powerful. And unfortunately, and both sides, Republican and Democrat, they're both the same when it comes to this. So again, I go off on my tangents about that, but I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. You might say, and you might be listening to this saying, well, what's this got to do with local government? What's this guy? I mean, we touched on a few things. But let me tell you something. If nobody's able to escape this, there's nowhere you can go to hide from it. Kind of like regional government. There's not many places you could go where you can hide from regional government. This is regional government. This is like hemispheric government. Okay? There's going to be a point where you can't hide from it.
Right.
There's going to be a point where there's going to be no state banks, no credit unions, no things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're part of the targets of this too.
Yeah, absolutely they are. These smaller organizations are going to get wiped out because the U.S. government's looking at putting in a digital dollar. And they'll work with the Fed. The Fed will work with maybe the large banks.
Yeah, well, the ones that are in the FDIC branch.
You know, and
we know who they are. We don't have to say them.
Right. And so that's going to, you know, you're going to have your Federal Reserve account, and it's trackable, it's traceable, it will enforce ESG, it will degrade your social credit score if your ESG score is bad and you're spending it on things you shouldn't, like meat, like a gas-powered car. You know, those are all things that, you know, are going to degrade you, and in dealing. And they're going to know because they'll know what you spend your money on. I know this sounds like a fairy tale, but go read about it.
Who's they exactly?
Well, the government will be able to set the parameters of here's what we want people to buy, here's what we don't want people to buy, or here's how much of it. It's going to be programmable to you based on, oh, you're overweight. Guess what? You don't need to buy any meat. You can buy vegetables. Guess what? You had some cavities at the last dentist visit. Anything with sugar is off limits to you. Hey, guess what? You live in an old house. We're not going to approve for you to buy whatever it is, but we will allow you to go and get some nice new low-E windows, huh? You know, and so
beats that
that's
vacation.
really what we're looking at here, and it gets worse because it's all going to be integrated as you look into the closer we get to the oneness, where and that's maybe something we should cover sometime, where you know, we the oneness, it's where humanity and technology begin to become intertwined, and the technology is in everything. I mean, eventually, you know, it's going to be putting chips and stuff like that in us. But even now, it's
they're there.
Like the internet.
They're doing it to animals,
right? But like now with like the Internet of Things and putting chips in your refrigerators and this and that. Right now, it's fairly benign, but at some point they want to get to the point where it's like, oh, you usually order milk on Wednesdays, you know. It's time for you to get some more milk. You know, it's going to be things like that, although it won't be milk because that's an animal byproduct and there are too many flipping cows passing methane. So instead, you can have...
You got to be a vegan.
You can have almond milk.
Oh.
Doesn't that sound delicious?
I don't like almonds as it is.
You get warm almonds that have the cinnamon and stuff on them. Oh,
well, it's maybe I'm getting confused with coconut. I hate coconut.
Oh, I love coconut.
Of course you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, you like vacuuming too. God.
No, I don't care for vacuuming. I do it because it's a necessity, but it's.
Well, you think about being in local government and all the things already being pushed on you now.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's an example. St. Louis Park. A couple of years ago, I think they passed an ordinance that unless you ask for a straw in a drive-through window, you can't get one. They're not going to give them out.
I've heard that.
Right? So
I thought that was temporary. I thought that was...
No, that is because it's not environmentally friendly.
Biodegradable.
And now McDonald's has started they created these new sipping tops that you don't need a straw for. And they have gone as far as to put inserts into your bag to tout how wonderful they are and how green and environmentally conscious and sustainable.
As you get a plastic
because
cup.
You're getting you're getting this sipping top versus them giving you a straw. But that's so that they can get a good ESG score. It's like, oh look, we're informing the public and we're doing this.
McDonald's is a franchise. Do they all have to do that?
Yeah, well, yeah, because corporate is going to get that grade. All the stores have to do what corporate wants them to do because it's really one McDonald's way to do something. It doesn't matter if you're a
that's true.
franchise owner.
Yeah. Yeah, you're very limited if you're a franchise owner.
Yeah. You're buying the name so that you can make money off of the name. I mean, that is...
You're buying the
it.
label.
Yes.
That's what you're doing. I'll tell you what, though. You talk about new construction, and you talk about city not being able to borrow money. You talk about utilities. I mean, this is something that they have whole pages on local government. This is like the green building stuff.
Right.
Remember the Green Building Council? Everything was
Yep.
was down to down to any new the stuff like that's been passed all over the country too.
Yeah, it's going right into our building codes under our noses, and we don't even know it's happening. A lot of cities, they will pass like it's the World Code Council or something like that. They'll just take a lot of those, like they make a manual. They'll just take it wholesale and use it, and so you're not even seeing a lot of the different building codes and stuff that are being utilized in your city.
Well, they have a whole thing called Cities Rebuild.
Oh boy.
I'm not going to play the video or watch this, but here's what they posted this on January 19th. Cities around the world are in the process of rebuilding as a result of geopolitical conflict, climate change, natural disasters, or other factors, including the impacts of the pandemic on city life, which we can thank government for. You can also thank China for.
Yes.
What strategies can public and private sectors advance to build resistance, adaptation, social value, and inclusion into reconstruction efforts? So the whole kit and caboodle here. Now just think of what they say here. The process of rebuilding. In other words, is that a goal to tear down the world and rebuild it?
Yeah. I mean, they want to remake the world in their image,
Ugh. New greenfield cities, including Niam in Saudi Arabia and capital city of Nasturia in Indonesia, came together for the first time at Davos 2023 as part of a public session. Bold new cities take the stage.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. They bring in big education on this stuff too.
Of course they do.
Here's a quote from Jason Bordoff, Dean of the Columbia Climate School. Energy transition is going to be messy and volatile. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, huh? The handoff between fossil fuels and renewables is incredibly complex and full of inertia given our current infrastructure. So they need policies that will ramp up the ratio of clean energy to fossil fuel investment from 1-to-1 now to 4-to-1 by 2030. Little wonder this investment problem and opportunity is the focus of the world's largest financiers.
Huh.
So,
well, they also have a smart cities policy benchmarking tool,
yeah.
which you can sign up, see how your city's doing. Real-time assessment results, Jay.
Oh, boy.
In fact, they encourage you to take an assessment of where your city is now. 2023 will be a year of action. In total, more than 480 public and private sessions were held as a part of the World Economic Forum. You know, one of the things, too, and I Let me see if I can find this. Anyway, government and business have a plan to build better. Wow, does that sound bad?
Yeah.
I don't even want to know that. Cities rebuild, principles of good design, putting social value at the core of urban transformation efforts.
Well, that's what we've talked about all the time. I mean, whether, it is making sure that housing is a fundamental right, whether it is placemaking and cultural placemaking at that, transit everywhere. These are all things that deep discount, or not discount, but deeply affordable housing, right? Yeah. All of these things are an attempt to make that happen.
Well, and I say this, if housing is a right, again, why aren't these people in Africa? Why aren't these people in North Korea?
Yeah.
Don't lecture us about housing. Those people here are not homeless. Go where the world's homeless.
Yeah.
And inject capitalism and a republic form of government.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to do that.
Why not? They can cut off the money.
Yeah, but they
You
won't.
can cut off the money to me. You can cut it off to the dictator of some African country.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, why couldn't you?
Well, you could. These people are not going to do what's right by us. They've got a plan to try and consolidate power because they believe they know what's better for us than we do.
Well, you know what, Jay? Maybe they just do. I mean, maybe they're just better than us. I mean, can't beat them, join them, Jay.
Yeah, I'm not joining them. So that's.
They even have podcasts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they do. Absolutely. So anything to, get their message out there, they've got all the money they need, so it's easy for them to be able to have many different formats to get the word out.
Yeah, and by the way, they spell center wrong. SCENTRE. That's not right.
Well, that's the European way, I guess.
Yeah, but it's even worse. It's Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they talk openly about a digital economy. I mean, it's spoken openly about.
Yes, it is. I mean, but that's what I said,
The unprecedented disruption by COVID-19, which affected none of these people because they all have their mansions somewhere, is accelerating the urgency for agility, adaptability, and transformation. What did I just say?
Yeah.
An estimated 70% of new value created in the economy over the next decade will be based on digitally enabled platform build business models. However, 47% of the world's population remain unconnected to the internet. Is that true?
I don't know.
Well, I suppose China, North Korea, Africa.
Yeah.
I know India's connected. Just call AT&T. You'll get India. You'll get India as a response.
Really? Oh goodness.
I'll tell you what, though. Getting back locally, I mean, this is going to come down to what kind of trees you can plant, what kind of, like you talked about, parking lots, whether you can hand out a straw, whether you can, and it will come in all sort of forms. I mean, like the green energy people, Jay, the Green Building Council.
Yes.
Did not come to your local city and make a presentation.
They did not.
They make a presentation to the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Right.
They set out rewrite standards, rewrite something or other. They get the states to do the same. They issue recommendations.
Filters down through the National League of Cities to the
Here's
Minnesota,
what's going on.
Nevada, Texas League of Cities.
And then you're going to get the grant money will all be tied to this. Everything will be tied to this world domination. These people who I'm curious to see. I might have to look up what people like Tucker Carlson and stuff said about this, because I was trying to find things and I found very, very little in the way of coverage of this. So
yeah, I mean, and Google does a good job.
Of course,
burying
they're part
that.
of it.
Right, exactly. They're not going to allow too many negative stories to get out.
Is that their arthritisms?
What?
Yeah, isn't it their...
algorithms?
Yeah, what did I call
yes.
it? Yeah,
arthritis.
So what does that mean again, Jay?
Algorithms, it's I don't know.
Controlling what comes up first?
It's really hard math.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, they use that in their programming to decide what you see, what you don't see, and it's been proven over and over again that they mess with those to make sure that you see what they want you to see.
Sure, Mark Zuckerberg admitted it under oath.
Yeah.
Even though he downplayed it, he admitted he did it.
Right.
Collaborating with the U.S. agencies.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, criticism of this has been... Coverage of this has been... You think something transforming the world would get a little more coverage than, the documents sitting in Joe Biden's basement. I mean, you just would... You'd think that would be just a little more important.
You would think so, but...
If I turn on Meet the Depressed or Face the Nation, I'm guessing I'm not going to hear much on the World Forum.
No, not really. Unfortunately, there's some places here and there where you're going to hear some things, but a lot of that is not going to. A lot of that's not going to come to the forefront.
Yeah, it's just not seen by enough people. I mean, the truth is, it really isn't. I mean, say what you want about the mainstream media, they still outnumber the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, and that's where all the money goes. And so, it becomes really difficult to be able to get the word out unless you have the money to be able to, like The Blaze or, something like that.
How long will they have the money?
Well,
think The Blaze can apply for a loan somewhere?
Probably not, and it is a very limited number of media companies that really are sticking their neck out there. Like you said, Tucker Carlson, but Laura Ingraham has said a bunch, but they
answer to, stakeholders, News Corp. I mean, they're part
ultimately,
they're part of a huge corporation too.
Right. They are. And so how do you, how do you get out of that, because they run the show, and so you have to figure out, what's an alternative way to be able to get the message out to people. And there's just, there's not a lot of ways right now, because you can't use social media because you're going to get blocked, with the exception maybe of like Rumble and right now Twitter.
Yeah, and by the way, Fox News did report that global elites took 150 plus private jets to fight climate change in Davos. Could they all meet from Zoom?
You would think so.
They expected us to do that.
You can't go skiing that way, though. Or whatever they do.
Who knows what they're doing?
Or if you're Al Gore, eat a big hunk of cheese and sound like you're, I don't know. Whatever he does over there, I don't know. I did also hear that when they go over there that there's a huge spike in prostitutes that also go over there. So what does that tell you? It's a great group of people.
They're buffoons, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, it's really hard to find a lot of balanced or truth in a lot of the reporting that comes out of there. You still have a lot of people that are, they're part of the club, So how are you, you want to stay a part of the club? Do you do it by biting the hand that's feeding you? Most of them can't do that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's ask a dumb question here.
Okay.
How do you fight this? Where do you even start? This is in every nook and cranny of our lives, Jay. You and I don't control big banks.
Yeah. No, we don't.
We don't control the government of another country. I don't control the government of this country, to be honest.
Right.
Where does one even begin to peel back this? Where do you even start?
Well, you have to start locally. This really, even though it's a global issue, it really boils down to local issues because that's where you do your business every day. You do business with a local bank, or you choose to do business with a big, huge national bank. You choose to do business with the businesses that are local. So if they're getting involved in some of this stuff, give your feedback. Say, hey, I don't appreciate this. I can't patronize your business anymore because of what this is doing to our economy, what this is doing to just the way we live our lives. Until you change this, and if enough people do it.
Do you think that can work?
I think it can. When you have an organized effort and you put pressure on somebody, they'll back off.
It seems to work the other way.
Right.
It seems like corporations will fold to the latest woke thing in a heartbeat.
They do. You see little victories, though. Like Disney was so off the rails terrible. And I still don't trust them, but like they had a CEO switch. New CEO came in after all the pressure and said, aversive about it personally. But you've got that. M&M's had just come out with a new set of spokes candies that were going to be all woke and whatever, and they got enough pushback on that.
Spoke candies?
Like that in their commercials, they have like the M&M's that talk and stuff. Yeah. That's what they call them. They were going to be woke now. And
so it's going to be Pat and Butch.
Yeah. So there was enough pushback that they decided they're going to scrap that whole thing, and they're bringing in Maya Angelou the old she's not old comedian Maya Rudolph off of SNL to be their spokesperson now. So I don't know, but so we
checks enough boxes.
We can make some change, I guess. It's just pushing back against them, and we got to keep standing up to the schools. What happened in Virginia, Loudoun County, great example. If people would do that all over the country, we would be able to push back on the school boards enough that they would have to listen to parents. But right now, because we're not pushing back enough, there is a movement against parental choice. And they phrase it like it's a bad thing, like it is the second coming of Ruby Ridge, and it's not. But they are trying to phrase and parents being involved in their children's education as if it's a bad thing.
Well, and it's funny because every school that I can think of has talked about parent involvement. I can't remember not hearing that.
Right.
I mean, do you want 0 parents to show up for sports games? You want 0 parents to show up for conferences? You want 0? Really? That's what you want?
Huh?
Oh, no. Well, you just don't want to tell them what you're teaching.
Yeah.
So,
we don't want to tell them what we're teaching. We don't want to tell them that your child is under our direction, choosing different pronouns, wants to get gender affirming care. So that
means?
Well, we know what it means. Drugs.
I don't really know what it means, to be honest.
Really?
I don't want to know.
Oh, that's giving kids puberty blockers so that they never enter into puberty for the sex that they were created to be.
What doctor would prescribe that? Why do they have
all
a
of them.
license? Where's
Almost
the medical,
all of them.
Where's the medical boards?
They're on board with it. Children's Hospital is performing these surgeries and castrating little boys before they come into.
That's interesting.
teenager.
If they chopped a kid's arm off, what would happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Gouged an eye out, what would happen?
Yeah.
Mutilation's mutilation. It doesn't matter.
Right. Right. I agree with you.
Doctors in this country are a-holes. I have never felt lower for the medical, and I'm excluding nurses from this.
You'd better, or you're going to be in trouble when you get home.
Well, yeah, but I mean, nurses don't make those decisions. They carry them out. They do the dirty work.
Yeah.
Doctors, I have never had a lower opinion of doctors in my life.
True.
And to be honest with you, if I don't want to go see one ever for any reason.
Yeah.
If I had cancer, it's 50-50 if I'd go in. I don't want to talk to them. I'm like, you are one of the reasons for the decline in this nation. You take an oath, a Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
Okay? It's no different than if I'm testifying or something like that. And any doctor that would prescribe anything like that is violating that oath times 100 in the worst possible way because you're doing it to kids.
Right.
Who don't get a choice.
Right. They're coerced by people they trust. And then
it's abuse.
Yeah, it is abuse.
What's the World Economic Forum say about that?
Well, they're for it, of course. that is part of the social part of ESG, is making sure that you are friendly towards gay, lesbian, bi, transgender,
whoever is classified
whatever.
as a victim.
Right.
They make the list of victims, and you've got to.
So your company has to have policies or avenues for them to be able to.
We've come a long way.
We've
come a long way since judging people by the content of their character.
Yes.
I'm certain I read that somewhere once, Jay. Didn't you?
Yes,
I read
did.
that somewhere.
Yes.
We sure do that. You got to check those up. Hey, you know what? I should go claim me to be non-binary, whatever. I don't even know what that means, and just see if I get promoted. Hey, I'm non-binary. You don't do something with me, pal. I'm gonna turn you in. I'm gonna turn you in for your low ESG score.
Yeah.
You want to mess with me? Let's throw this back in their face a little bit.
Yeah.
How about Klaus Schwab resign and put a drag queen at the head of the World Economic Forum?
Why not?
Put your money where your mouth is, you wrinkly old bastard. Why don't you do that? You crook. No, of course not. He gets his elite position. What he means is it's kind of like Leona Helmsley. Yeah. I don't pay taxes. The little people do.
Right.
That's the view. She was just the only one to come out and say it. That's the view here.
Yeah.
They can take a private jet. You can't. They can have a gazillion-dollar home. You can't. That's the view. That's elites.
Yep.
Because they're socially responsible and you aren't. I can't trust you. I can't trust anybody to do this, so we have to do it for them.
The sooner that the people on the right and the people on the left realize that we're in this together, and it's us against the people that have everything, and it's not enough, and they want more. They want complete control over everything. Until we realize that we're actually in this together, even though we might not agree on how many taxes we should spend or whether there should be electric buses running around or not.
It's never.
We need to be able to take our country back, and to be able to have the discussions that we need to have at some point, but it's not going to happen as long as these guys are in control.
Well, and I'll tell you why else it doesn't happen. These people are smart. They get the long term. They understand that free elections are a bad thing for their agenda.
Right.
So if the politicians fight back, what do? They go around the politicians.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll go for your donors.
Yeah.
You know, we'll go for the country you trade the most with.
Yeah.
We'll figure out how to get you around there.
Right. Or they'll fund these super PACs that will show
George
tons
Soros,
of,
a guy born in Hungary, who influences United States politics every day.
Doesn't look hungry.
No, he looks like a catcher's mitt.
Oh, boy.
So, I mean, the resistance, I think, unfortunately, half the battle is information. I mean, half the battle is World Economic Forum. If I walked into a bar and asked 100 people, what do you think I'd get as a response?
What are you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?
If I
That's
said,
about
what do you think of the
it.
World Economic Forum? I'd get a bunch of blank looks.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, I don't know how to fight through that because so many people are just sponges.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, people live their lives and they don't think saving the world is their job. But you know, you have a duty as a citizen to pay attention to this stuff. And unfortunately, we've promoted the opposite. We've turned everything into a 30-second soundbite. It's sort of like you think back on something, what you remember is something very small. Think back to, I'll use a presidential election as a way to explain this.
Okay.
The 1988 presidential election. Now, Jay, I was 11 years old.
Okay.
You tell me what you remember about that. Give me one thing you remember about it. This is George
Bush versus Dukakis.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that.
Name one thing Dukakis did that you remember.
Man, I don't know if I do.
Rode in that tank.
Oh, yeah. That I guess I remember that.
And there was one other thing. Willie Horton. I always remember Willie Horton.
Yeah.
Because that was a big deal that Dukakis wanted to let out Willie Horton when he was governor. And Willie Horton allegedly killed, or I don't know what he did. But that just became, boom, it was one 30-second soundbite.
Yep.
It's the only thing I don't remember anything else. Of course, I was 11. I remember nothing else. Go back to Clinton Dole. All I remember is Dole's age.
Yeah.
And him talking in the third person.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can't tell you anything else about it. We've reduced everything to a 30-second soundbite. What you hear, what you see, what gets replayed over and over and over. Something you and I talk about. It's that getting in somebody's mind, controlling the narrative.
Yeah.
And that's what it boils down to now. So how, left and right going to unite on something? No way. Because there's always the next election. And that next election is sooner than this stuff ever gets implemented.
Yeah.
So the next election becomes more important than that. That's what these people are counting on. Counting on us to spend the next year fighting each other and not paying any attention to what's going on out here. Now, you people, you Democrats and Republicans can do that. Okay? You people can go argue on Facebook. You can go do whatever you want. I'm not going to participate in that. I'm not participating in it anymore. So this is the kind of stuff to pay attention to.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'll tell you what else. Here's the other scary part, is just getting the message out. Well, what about the forums to do that if they stifle you?
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it.
Yeah. People getting shadow banned, people getting 3 strikes and out, you know.
People having, they're getting disclaimers on their podcasts.
Yeah.
People getting things removed.
Yeah. Been there.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's, you say, well, how in this information age do you do it when the information age is in bed? Google's in bed with these folks. How many things do you Google in a week?
A lot.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying not to be a pessimist here. But quite frankly, this is so big to fight. I think the only thing is you just got to parachute into this with a machine gun. I think that's the way to do it. Next year at Davos, I think I'm going to get on a private jet, parachute in there. I'll take care of them.
Whatever.
Is that a disclaimer for you, YouTube?
Here's
See,
the
I'm
thing,
flipping
though.
you off, YouTube.
Here's the next. It doesn't matter what you do. They've got somebody waiting in the wings to rise up, and they'll do just the same thing or worse. Some smarmy number 2 that wants to be a number 1.
That's right. But you can do the what do you call it, Manchurian guy?
Yeah.
That what's his name claimed to be
Denzel Washington.
No, yeah, but why am I not thinking of it? RFK's killer.
Sirhan.
Sirhan.
Yes.
Amazing. He killed one person in his life, and somehow he doesn't remember it. Isn't it a convenient memory lapse?
Yeah.
Well, he's the Manchurian candidate. They programmed this no-name guy they just found to go kill somebody.
Right.
I mean, that's the way to do it.
He was a one-name guy.
Huh?
He was a one-name guy.
Yeah, one-name guy who just said it twice. But maybe that's the thing.
Well, I mean, look at the stuff that's come out on Kennedy. I mean, it's pretty clear that the CIA had direct influence into that. And
I have definitely waffled. I mean, I was a big conspiracy guy. Then I thought Oswald did it I still think Oswald was involved. The case against him is overwhelming.
Yeah. I think that they were. I think that they kind of had him in control.
The FBI and the CIA, FBI had a file on Oswald. CIA wasn't supposed to. They're not supposed to investigate American
Well, they
citizens.
were, from what I hear, most likely working with him when he went to Cuba, when he went over to Russia.
Possibly. I mean, he was a former Marine. They had to know that.
They did.
It was just funny. Lee Harvey Oswald's always a guy he never took seriously.
Yeah.
And yet, how come I got a question for the CIA and the FBI. How come they never work with me? I'll go undercover somewhere.
Really? You want that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll go do that.
They might send you undercover to, like, Dubuque.
Well, I can handle their problems. I'll volunteer.
I don't think they want your solutions.
Well, that's too bad because I could really help them out.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us here, normal Americans, could really help them out, but they're not looking for that because...
but again, it's supposed to be illegal for the CIA to work in the United States. They're not supposed to do that.
Supposed to be.
Of course, we know it's bull. It's always been bull.
Government does whatever they want to do.
And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. For a long, long time,
Yeah.
CIA and the FBI were things I defended,
Me too.
and I won't defend them anymore. And I'm going to include the rank and file in that because I'd resign if I were them.
Yep.
I'd quit. Say I'm not working for the organization that does the stuff you do.
Right.
Go into private security, work for Al Gore, and make way more money. Well, what's the thing? You got to drive an electric car, but whatever. But I mean, the point being that you talk about taking a personal, not banking somewhere. Well, how about not working somewhere?
Yeah.
And I get you got to survive.
Part of
I
it.
get you got to survive. I understand that part, but I also feel like if you really want to take a stand on something, don't have your name associated with something.
Yeah. Well, Jesus put it this way, that, if you're willing to give up your life for the sake of the gospel, you'll save it. If you try to keep it, you're going to lose it. And meaning this, that if you're doing the wrong things and you're living for yourself and you're doing what's good for you and not what's good for other people, not doing what's right, and you try to keep that kind of life, you're going to end up losing it in the end. You're not. It's when you give yourself over to what you're supposed to do, when you give yourself over to doing what's right, when you give yourself over for the sake of loving others, serving others, that is when you find true life, because you're doing things that mean something.
Profound.
So,
And by the way, when we talk about living for others, we're not talking about being environmentally friendly.
right.
We're talking about not forcing other people to do things, not holding it against them if they don't. I mean, there's so much simple words from Jesus that you can't say it any simpler than he said it.
Right. No, he was about freedom of choice and giving people the opportunity to do things right or wrong, because it's more important that we choose to do the right thing than it is that we're forced to do the right thing. So,
Yeah, and here we have a government that wants to force us to do the wrong thing.
yeah, so, it's important that we stand in the face of that. And
I just wonder if like the local government here in St. Louis Park is even smart enough to know where any of this, even Jake the Snake, who I know gets invited to everything. I mean, do they really know? Do they really think not handing out a plastic straw is that's saving the planet? They really think that? I just wonder if they really think that.
well, you don't give a straw out in St. Louis Park, it won't end up in the ocean. Although I'm pretty sure we're far enough away from the ocean that our straws don't end up there
Jake
anyways.
Spano's backyard. That's where I'd like to dump them all.
Every straw, that's where we're dumping it. Every single one. It's going to become a trap for...
I'll tell you, though,
Yes.
I'll tell you this much. I've seen these presentations. They're persuasive.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have seen this where it's always portrayed as something so wonderful for your community that you're going to create a bunch of bike paths that
Right.
nobody uses. And, oh, how great it is for nature to have a man-made pond somewhere. I mean, it is...
Yeah.
I can understand how people get sucked in to this kind of thing. And it's so hard to do independent research because, like you said, Jay, the information people are in bed with the bankers, who are in bed with the businesses, who are in bed with the government.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in bed together.
You should be going to source material anyways, so you should be going out to the World Economic Forum website. You should be going out to these companies' websites and looking at their policies when it comes to people, when it comes to sustainability. You should be looking at a city's, a county's, a state's ordinances and looking at the positions that they're taking on things. What kind of clubs do they belong to? All that kind of stuff. I mean, you really have to go out to the source. The problem is a lot of this stuff is written by lawyers. Some of it can be very tricky to read and understand, and it gets convoluted. But you've got to do it. That's where you can't refute it. If you go to an article from Fox News, you can say, well, that's Fox News, whatever. But if you go to the World Economic Forum's website and you download an article, here's what they say about it themselves, nobody can argue with that. And it's why when Agenda 21 was seen as conspiratorial, no, it's not. Here it is. Read it. You can go find it on the internet, on the UN's website.
Yeah,
it's real.
Yeah. Well, we signed on to it back in 1992.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton had the Council on Sustainability.
Yeah.
That was in 1993. That was in direct response to Agenda 21, the meeting in 1992.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are you talking about? It's conspiratorial. It's right there in black and white.
Right.
I mean, that's the other thing, too, that I've never understood. Why am I a conspiracy theorist for reporting what a group of World Economic, quote, leaders, and I'll use that term loosely, are doing and saying?
Yeah.
That's a conspiracy?
I mean, there's audio out there of John Kerry from this last go-round of the World Economic Forum suggesting that billions of dollars be put into buying American land so that it can be closed off from Americans. It's there. And that's why it's important to listen to what they say, because they're serious about this.
And I'll tell you what, too. Remember, this is the kind of thing that the government's never serious. You know, they always tell you to listen but not listen.
Yeah.
I always go back to Osama bin Laden, and I can remember time after time after time, I heard it from George Bush, from Dick Cheney, from John Kerry, from Tony Blair, from Benjamin Netanyahu. Bin Laden hates democracy. He just hates freedom. That's why he hates us. You find me any speech of Osama bin Laden where he says that. That was not why. Now, this is not justifying him. This is understanding him.
Now, he probably does hate freedom, because that is just that is the way that militant Islam works.
Yeah, if I had a guess, he wouldn't know a democracy if it ran him over. But from his point of view, he hated the U.S. foreign policy. He hated the. I think that is. He never just said, "Well, you know what? You just got too much freedom. We're going to bomb you because you got too much freedom over there." That's the problem. I just hate that.
No.
That it was such a crock, and it was all said. Hillary Clinton said it. It was all, and I bought into it. At the time, I bought into it. You know, and this was a little different time, 2001-ish, where, you know, the internet wasn't necessarily on your phone, and it was a lot harder to research some of this stuff. But anybody send me something where that speech was made.
Right.
It was never made. It was propaganda by our side.
Right. And I'm going to argue something very unpopular. Look now. Look at this war between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, totally. We are partly responsible.
I'm not an apologist for Russia. They're terrible.
Yeah, the war is awful.
War is awful, and Vladimir Putin is awful. He is a terrible human being. What he has picked up from Alexander Dugin and the theory on putting the Soviet Union back together, terrible. What he's doing to innocent people, terrible, awful human being. Now, I think I've been very clear about that. However, we on this other side are being told that we have to give the Ukrainians everything. Patriot missile systems, money in unending amounts, and that somehow is going to solve all of this. And granted, I think that there's some real atrocities that need to be made account for on the Russian side, but there's also, I think, a lot of corruption on the Ukrainian side, and there's nothing being said. And we know that Hunter Biden had financial arrangements with the Ukrainian government, elements of the Ukrainian government, and that Joe Biden was enriched from these.
The Ukrainian government, by the way, that we partly installed. Let's
Absolutely.
not forget, under President Obama.
Our State Department was over there, fomented the revolution that changed over their government.
Absolutely. That's the other thing. They keep calling this an unprovoked war. If Russia fomented a revolution in Ottawa, do you think we'd sit here and do nothing?
No, absolutely not.
Again, I'm not defending Putin. The war there's terrible. But to beat an enemy, you got to think like them.
Yeah.
You got to understand them.
Absolutely.
So in Putin's mind, this is the equivalent of Russia fomenting a revolution in Mexico City, which we would never allow.
Right.
We'd go invade, we'd bomb, we would never let that happen. Cuba's the closest something like this has ever happened before.
Yeah.
So, quite frankly, you got to understand that. That's where we're at. We have pushed, and I'm going to tell you, Democrats, Republicans, everybody, has, ever since the Soviet Union's fall, we have pushed red line after red line after red line toward Russia.
Yep.
And are we shocked? By the way, like I've said before, where's my list of what we're giving Ukraine? What if these weapons are used in a school shooting, Jay?
Yeah.
What if the Russians get their hands on these weapons?
Right.
They're supposed nuclear warheads they supposedly had that were built in the 70s. Russia couldn't Bush invaded Afghanistan and it lasted 5 miles. But I'm supposed to believe, now, of course, we didn't do great there.
Right.
Well, we toppled their government
Well, we did.
in a few weeks. But I mean, point being, all these alleged warheads they have, yeah, I know I believe that. Whatever. I mean, how do you prove a negative?
Right.
Think about it. They got a bunch of nuclear warheads that Brezhnev and a bunch of people probably had at the Kremlin for a while.
Yeah.
And they're probably filled with sand and they're probably useless. That's what I believe. I believe that's propaganda from our government. I don't think that that's true.
Could be.
I think it's there to keep that war machine going, keep us afraid, keep us justifying the money that we're spending and sending overseas. By the way, you could send some of it to my house, Mr. Biden.
Yeah.
How come you take care of Ukrainians ahead of us?
Yeah. Good question.
Okay. That's enough. What a negative show. I loved it. I loved every drop of pessimism. The more pessimism on this show, the better. I love it. Jay, enlighten us with just anything. I don't even just make it up. Okay.
We're all doomed. Okay.
Styling and profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jason Bradley, take it away.
Thank you, Andrew. Oh, yeah, that was kind of heavy. But you know what? It's important that we understand where things are at, because until we have a good understanding of that, we're not going to be able to come up with a solution. You can't come up with a solution till you understand the problem. You know, if somebody has an ear infection and you give them Pepto-Bismol, they're not going to get better from their ear infection. You got to give them an antibiotic. We've got to find out what the antibiotic is that's going to solve the problem. So we need to understand the problem. And that's that you, me, us, the small guy, we're up against people with a lot of money and a lot of power. And I don't mean that in the Mr. Potter sense from It's a Wonderful Life. I mean that in the sense of world governance, multinational, global corporations that have more money than you will ever be able to comprehend. But you know what? They're only as good as the power we give them. If we allow them to have that kind of power, then yeah, it's going to be a tough run. But if at any point we decide that we've had enough, that's where things change. And we're able to do this. We can and we must, because it is in the finding of these things that we might not have understanding of, but we know they're happening, that should cause us to get down to the minute details and figure it out. It's the only way to get it to end. We can't sit here and watch this go in front of us and not do something about it. It just doesn't work that way. Things will never get better. And we will find ourselves getting further and further and further behind, because what we bring to the table is going to get overshadowed. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be, because we control where we spend our money for now. We control what we spend our money on for now. We control who we vote for. We control where we send our kids to school. You may say, no, I can't put my kids in private school. Can't afford that. Can't be home with them to homeschool. There are a lot of options out there. So yes, we can figure it out. All these entertainers that run their mouth about whatever it is, trying to get the world to come over to their view because they're popular. And what that's coming out of their mouth is complete and utter rubbish, don't watch their movies. Don't watch their TV shows. Don't listen to their music. And instead, go where we can build a team. I wasn't going to bring this up, but, it fits. I'm about to release my second single off my new album that's coming up called Our Troubled Hearts. And this is the title song, Our Troubled Hearts. And it is about how all of this stuff is going on in society. We know that we're being lied to. We know that we are being lied to. We know that the emperor has no clothes, but yet so many of us are just willing to go along with it because we want to be in the cool kids club or whatever it is. And, kids don't understand the world. And we're finding this even with 20-somethings. As they're coming into their own, they have been programmed by educrats, by entertainers, by government, by big business, into this worldview. And they think that they understand it. They don't understand anything. They haven't been punched in the face yet. Life hasn't come up and knocked them down on their hiney. But they think they've got a great grasp on what it is. And we've kind of just let them do it. My generation, our generation, the participation trophies, the 24/7 on video games, the letting them get away with murder in the classroom, figuratively and literally. That's where the problems are at. And if we would just come together to be the parents and the grandparents that we're supposed to be, well, then we're going to make some progress. Things are going to be a little different. I know they can be. And they have to be. So that song is being released this Friday. That's kind of a deep subject for, just a pop rock song. But I think that's really what it comes down to. Is that we gotta stand up and we gotta be those parents. We gotta be those grandparents. Even if we haven't been them and our kid is 25 years old, it's time for us to start being those people again. Loving on them, but not pulling any punches and telling them the truth. The lies have to stop. And I think they can. But it's up to us. Those lies live on or they die because of what we decide to do every day. It's not going to be an easy road, but it's going to be worthwhile should we decide that we want to save this country. So I ask you to join us. We'll help you figure out what your role is. Just get a hold of us. COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. And we will work it out together because we have to. We have to figure it out. So we'll be back with another podcast in another week. Share this one far and wide because I think it's important that we understand where we're at. If we don't understand that we're at the precipice, we won't find the need to push back. But if we find the need to push back, we will, and we will win. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn to get to work.